Peng Liyuan, who has occupied the peak position of China's first lady in the past decade, has recently exhibited a series of abnormal signals. On December 1st, her annual home field event was comprehensively downgraded, reports were toned down, the accompanying officials were of lower rank, her screen time was cut, and even the planned First Lady diplomacy program was abruptly cancelled. At the same time, Ma Xingrui's family, one of the key Shandong clique figures and a political white glove for Peng, was exposed for amassing hundreds of billions in Xinjiang, transferring assets across borders, and even allegedly laundering money for Peng Liyuan. Ma's collapse is like pulling out a foundational pile, suddenly exposing the political web that Peng has woven over the past decade to the storm of power struggles. Taken together, these signals resemble the opening scene of a political thriller. What on earth has happened to Peng Liyuan? Does her sudden downgrading indicate that the balance of power in Zhongnanhai is tilting? Since 2013, except during the pandemic years, she has appeared almost every year on this date as the WHO Goodwill Ambassador for tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS, with the same lines, the same procedures, and the same camera choreography. This became a fixed annual ritual during her tenure. Yet on the same day in 2025, this previously dull and even somewhat formulaic publicity event quietly turned into the most bizarre public occasion for Peng Liyuan in a decade. The anomaly did not lie in what she said or did, but in the fact that she was no longer placed in her previous position. The first abnormality was the downgrading of her place in the reporting order. In past years, all official media reports opened in nearly identical fashion. WHO Goodwill Ambassador Peng Liyuan attended today's. This year, however, she was pushed to the back. The first sentence became, December 1st is the 38th World AIDS Day, with the publicity theme of, only after the theme was fully introduced was Peng Liyuan hurriedly mentioned. To outsiders, this may look like nothing more than a change in editorial style. But for those familiar with the CCP propaganda system, such a change in the fixed format of official news releases is a real downgrading and reflects a weakening of Peng's status. The second abnormality was the downgrading of the rank of accompanying officials. This year, the highest-ranking official accompanying Peng was a vice-ministerial-level cadre, Shen Hongbing, deputy director of the National Health Commission and director of the National Disease Control Bureau, along with Sun Junmin, head of the Beijing Municipal Propaganda Department, and Chanfeng Fuchen, a CPPCC Standing Committee member and honorary director general of the WHO. There was not a single incumbent full minister-level official at her side. In last year's event, the highest-ranking official accompanying her was a full minister-level figure, Lei Haichao, director of the National Health Commission, along with Shen Hongbing, Sun Junmin, and Wang Jiai, vice minister of education. At the 2019 themed event, the officials accompanying Peng included Li Bin, deputy director of the National Health Commission, Zhong Denghua, vice minister of education, and Liyuan, vice mayor of Beijing, a fairly high-powered lineup. In the CCP system, the rank of attendees symbolizes how much importance the central leadership attaches to an event and how it positions Peng Liyuan. The third abnormality is the weakening of Peng in the news coverage itself. This year, coverage of Peng Liyuan appears only on the official website of the National Health Commission. Beyond that, a search of the internet yields no reports on other major sites or official outlets. In addition, both the number of shots and the length of her appearance were significantly reduced. In the 2024 video report, Peng Liyuan received many close-up shots. This year, however, she was clearly downplayed, while other attending speakers were given more screen time, similar to how Xi Jinping has recently been visually downplayed. One of the clearest examples of this downplaying of Xi in recent CCTV reports appeared on November 9 at the opening ceremony of the 15th National Games in Guangzhou. The CCTV main news program did not show any shots of Xi appearing on the stadium's giant screens. His on-screen time was limited, and this was not the first time. Peng Liyuan's screen time was also cut. Compared with the roughly 15-second long shot she received at the 2021 National Games opening, this year she had only about 8 seconds, nearly half the duration. For CCP state media, this is not random. The scale of a person's appearance, the length of their shots, and the order in which they appear are all code within the propaganda system. They indicate that Peng Liyuan is being systematically faded out. If the December 1st World AIDS Day event was the most obvious downgrading of Peng Liyuan in a decade, then her aborted trip to South Korea at the end of October marked the moment when this downward curve truly began to crack. In that case, she was not uninvited from the beginning, but rather pulled back at the last minute. And that cancellation took place under the condition that the South Korean side had already completed all preparations and China had formally confirmed her visit. On October 8, 2025, two major South Korean financial media outlets simultaneously released breaking news. Xi Jinping and his wife will visit Gyeongju from late October to early November to attend the APEC summit. The South Korean government has confirmed that Peng Liyuan will hold multiple separate activities with First Lady Kim Hae-kyung, including visits to Bulguksa Temple, Sukaguram Grotto, and Wuyang Museum of Contemporary Art, and attendance at the leader's welcome banquet. Jeonju authorities have already printed bilingual Chinese-Korean guide booklets for the First Ladies group, and a dedicated guide for Bulguksa has been rehearsing for a month. Mail Business newspaper commented that since China would hold the APEC chairmanship in 2026, Peng Liyuan's presence carried symbolic significance. Everything was ready, then the fourth plenum arrived. From October 20th to 23, 2025, the CCP's 20th Central Committee convened its fourth plenum, a routine meeting delayed by 1 year. 3 days before it opened, explosive news broke. On October 17, the Ministry of National Defense took the unusual step of issuing a disciplinary announcement regarding 9 generals: Central Military Commission Vice Chairman He Weidong, Political Work Department Director Miao Hua, Political Work Department Executive Deputy Director He Hongjun, Joint Operations Command Center Executive Deputy Director Wang Xiaobin, Eastern Theater Commander Lin Shenyang, Army Political Commissar Qin Shadong, Navy Political Commissar Yuan Huaji, Rocket Force Commander Wang Hobin, and Armed Police Commander Wang Chuning. This was the first time since 1949 that the CCP had taken down 2 Central Military Commission members and 9 serving full generals at once. The news shocked the world. In the subsequent communique of the fourth plenum, 3 seats that should have been filled on the rostrum, those of the Political Work Department Director, the CMC Discipline Inspection Secretary, and the head of the CMC Equipment Development Department, were all empty. 22 full Central Committee members and 14 alternate members were absent. 8 alternate members were not promoted as usual to fill vacancies, including Xi's key manager and the CMC General Office Director Fang Yumxiang. In that same week, on October 24, the Foreign Ministry website posted the official announcement that Xi Jinping would attend APEC and visit South Korea. On November 1, she flew back to Beijing from Busan. In the Xinhua Dispatch, the list of accompanying officials included only Kai Chi, Wang Yi, and He Lifeng. Peng Liyuan's name did not appear even once. The ginkgo leaves at Bulguksa in Jeonju fell in thick layers. They never welcomed the woman whom South Korean media had once called the elegant First Lady. More than a month later, when Peng Liyuan finally appeared at the Beijing Xiqing District Cultural Center, even her longtime home field had been overshadowed by the event's theme. The Bulguksa Temple in Jeonju in October 2025 thus became the scene of Peng Liyuan's official collapse in First Lady diplomacy. The CCP's soft power frontwoman. Among all images of China's first ladies, Peng Liyuan is the one closest to the positioning of an international superstar. From 2013 to 2019 was the peak period for her personal image, the reach of her influence, and her symbolic political significance. On March 22, 2013, Xi Jinping made his first foreign trip as state president, traveling to Moscow, 3 African countries, and the BRICS summit. For the first time, the list of accompanying persons included the words his wife, Peng Liyuan. That moment not only marked her debut on the international stage but also quietly opened the door to the delicate role she would play around the boundaries of power over the next decade. From March 2013 to the end of 2019, just 6 short years, Peng Liyuan completed a remarkable transformation from a well-known military singer to the CCP's most expensive soft power business card. In July 2014, during Xi Jinping's first visit to South Korea after taking office, Peng's solo itinerary was packed. A special closed visit to Changdeokgung Palace. A speech at Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Wearing hanbok at Seoul National University and interacting with students. Yonhap News reported that Peng Liyuan's popularity overshadowed Xi Jinping's. Over the next 4 years, nearly every one of Xi's foreign trips repeated a similar script. In 2019, Foreign Minister Wang Yi publicly praised her at a press conference. The First Lady diplomacy carried out by Professor Peng Liyuan is one of the brightest highlights in Xi Jinping's diplomatic layout. Though clearly flattering, his remark reflected the reality that Peng's appearances did soften the image of Xi Jinping and, by extension, the CCP. Moreover, Peng's international credentials have built her personal empire. When she was first appointed Goodwill Ambassador for Tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS in 2011, the title was largely symbolic. But after she took office in 2013, December 1 each year became her main showcase. The accompanying officials rose from bureau level to vice ministerial and then to full minister level. At that point, Goodwill Ambassador was no longer just a title, it had become a concrete power credential. If the above are examples of soft power, Peng Liyuan's political reach has had very real impact on the CCP's party, government, and military arenas. In Chinese language discourse, people tend to see Peng as a first lady with strong cultural symbolism. But in recent years, various signs have shown that the influence she has built across the CCP's party, governmental, and military systems far exceeds what most outsiders imagine. There has long been talk of a Shandong clique centered on Peng Liyuan. In May 2024, Hong Kong Singtao Daily reported that photos circulating on social media showed Peng Liyuan serving as a full-time member of the CMC Cadre Evaluation Committee. This is no minor position. It participates in the evaluation of generals, assessing mid- and high-level officers in the military and influencing their promotion or elimination. In other words, to some extent, Peng Liyuan holds the power of life and death over officers' careers. Within the military, representatives of the Shandong clique include current Defense Minister Dong Jun and Wang Channing, the former armed police commander who has already been expelled from the party. Ma Xingrui, meanwhile, is one of the key Shandong clique figures in the political arena. He and Peng Liyuan hail from the same hometown, Yunqing County, Shandong. It is said that Ma's path from the aerospace sector into politics and on to becoming a regional heavyweight followed the First Lady route paved by Peng. Ma Xingrui's implosion, the beginning of the Shandong clique collapse? To understand why Peng Liyuan was suddenly comprehensively weakened in 2025, one cannot avoid the Ma Xingrui thread. On July 1 this year, Xinjiang Party Secretary Ma Xingrui was abruptly removed from his post. The announcement said he was assigned to another position, but 5 months have passed with no new position announced. Ma then failed to appear at a Politburo meeting and collective study session on November 28, in which CCTV purposefully showed images of his seat being occupied by Wang Yi. 2 days later, his right-hand man in Xinjiang, Executive Vice Chairman Chen Weijun, was placed under investigation by the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection. Those familiar with CCP political language know, when the deputy falls first, the principal is almost certainly in serious trouble. Chinese-Australian commentator Jiang Wanjing revealed a key figure. During his 4 years in Xinjiang, Ma Xingrui oversaw 3.3 trillion yuan in projects and personally pocketed 100 billion. Even more shocking was his next sentence: he didn't swallow it alone, he shared it with Li Shi and Peng Liyuan. This kind of political investment model is very typical at the top of the CCP. You help my family do things, I help you get promoted. In other words, Ma Xingrui's downfall was never going to be just his own problem. Jiang further added that Ma's wife Ronli, Li Shi's wife, and the wife of Gao Shiwen, deputy party secretary of Nanchang, Jiangxi, were buying up whole buildings in Hong Kong and buying gas stations and land in large tracts overseas. This is not the petty corruption of low-level officials, it is asset package-level cross-border transfer of wealth. Among these 3 families, 2 belong to the Shandong clique. Ma Xingrui's disgrace effectively exposes the entire line to anti-Xi forces. His collapse is the decisive turning point in the decline of Peng Liyuan's influence in Zhongnanhai. The reason is simple: like Xi Jinping, she can no longer protect her people. Over the past 10 years, Xi Jinping and Peng Liyuan promoted one military commander after another and appointed their own people to key positions. But starting in the second half of 2024, their trusted confidants, those they had personally elevated, began to fall one after another. Now, even Politburo member Ma Xingrui has disappeared. No wonder reports on Peng Liyuan are being downgraded. Ma Xingrui's disappearance has shaken the very foundations of Peng Liyuan's political network. It took 6 years for Peng Liyuan to rise to the peak after Xi Jinping came to power. Her fall, however, has required only 1/4 plenum.